Okay. What do you think the new right-wing talking point is? Now that Joe Biden is in office and we've got 3.6% unemployment, our inflation is high, but kicking the shit out of most of the Western countries and all of Asia. What do you think it is? Bear cupboards? Ding, ding, ding. You're right. What do we have for them, Johnny? Dinesh D'Souza. America is running out of available weapons stockpiles to send to Ukraine. We're going to run out before Russia does. The country with the $26 trillion economy, yearly GDP, is going to run out of weapons before the country with $1.4 trillion in total net worth that's been shut off from the entire world banking system.
And it actually rages on.
Oh, hold on. It's raging on. Something's raging.
The war in Ukraine rages on, and it actually rages on longer than the intelligence experts had estimated.
By the way, the intelligence experts he's talking about are all the right-wing ones who thought Ukraine was going to lose early and they could jack off to Putin porn and go, yay, Team R.
And Ukraine is hanging in there. They continue to fight gallantly against the Russian Putin.
You seem depressed about that. They keep fighting gallantly. God damn it.
Invasion of Ukraine. But who's going to run out of weapons first, the Russians or, well, us?
Russians.
For a while there, I kept reading gleeful articles in the media. Oh, the Russians are going to pretty soon be out of ammunition. The Ukrainians are going to have them on the ropes. On the face of it, this is a little bit implausible. The Ukraine is going to defeat Russia in a war.
It's not the Ukraine, it's Ukraine. You fucking tool.
Well, Ukraine is getting a lot of help.
Hold on, I've got to look something up real quick. Let's see. How many tanks does Russia have? I think it's in here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so here we go. This dude, one second, hold on. So this dude at Covert Cabal, whatever this is, did a pretty deep dive into what tanks the Russians have, what they're equivalent to, and how many of them Russia supposedly has, like in storage and all this other stuff. And so he goes through, after an ad for Raid Shadow Legends, as you do, and seeks using Russian military sites. This is where they store their tanks. That's a bunch of stored tanks. That's a bunch of holy shit, look at all those tanks. Meanwhile, here's a bunch of tanks that are half covered, some are fully covered, and then some are just kind of piled out in the back. You'll see in a second. These tanks are all useless. These tanks are all in various groups of repair. You could repair these. These are fucked up. This is old footage, and then this is one of their storage places. It says about 600 functional tanks. These are all rotten. This is an area that, like, you can basically tell by the shade of green the tanks are, the shape that they're in, give or take. Because some of them are darkened for a reason; they're painted that way. But in general, you're looking at rust and rot. These tanks are still listed as active by Russia, and one need only look at how they are parked to know that they are not in any good shape. All right, so those are troop transports and other stuff. They used to be tanks apparently parked in these little areas. These are the ones that supposedly have gone to Ukraine, and then inside the theory is that there's another group of tanks just like them, but it turns out those are just like repair facilities. So they roll them in, fix them, and roll them back out is the idea, so they can work around the clock. So another, like, these are the tanks they used to have, and then I'll show you some stuff. So here's all these, like, years ago. Hold on, I think he even says something about these.
Ukraine, but the latest satellite imagery, I counted roughly 400, only 50 of which probably inoperable. Then there are a few small ones, like the 187th with only 50, one on Sakhalin Island with another 50 of what appears to be tanks, but they're covered, and then a few dozen at the 245th and Lessest of Oaks. And finally, 2 other small central tank reserve bases that I could not find the number of. One in Obsk, which was previously the 71st Reserve Tank.
By the way, Google Maps has stopped hiding all these sites, so now everybody can get a real good look of what Russia actually has.
Unit number 14892. It has about 100 tanks, all appearing in decent shape. And the other...
If they're covered in white or they're below there, they're being moved regularly or they're ready to roll.
A military unit number of 75485, located in Kamyshlov, housing mostly other vehicles, but around 100 tanks. There's also many other that I found mentioned online, but satellite imagery has shown that they have been shut down in recent years, such as the Markovsky storage base in 2009. In fact, Russia has been rapidly decreasing its number of stored tanks over the past few decades. Today, based on what I found, Russia has roughly 6,000 tanks in storage. Of those, at best, maybe 3,000 of those appear that they could ever be brought back into service again. Now, that number is nearly half of what most sites you'll see online report, but again, it's worth noting that Russia has been
3,000 tanks total across the entire country, and you can't send all 3,000 of those fucking things to Ukraine. They need them in Chechnya and Georgia and around those areas as patrols. They need them around the borders of Kazakhstan and China, and the Mongolian territories. They need them on the islands they're claiming from the Japanese.
It's getting a lot of help from the West, shipments of Western, not so much troops, no troops, but rather weaponry, artillery, and rockets, and all kinds of lethal aid. Now, the West has done this in the name of protecting, quote, the arsenal of democracy. This is some fictitious...
By the way, look how he fucking, like, the arsenal of democracy is a mockable phrase. But the idea that Russia will run out of, that is equally mockable to the idea that Russia will run out of munitions.
The West has done this in the name of protecting, quote, the arsenal of democracy. This is some fictitious alliance of democracies around the world.
Sorry,
There's no
Stargal.
actual such alliance.
I hear it sometimes, I repeat it, but it's Ukraine, not the Ukraine.
In fact, big democracies have stayed out of this. But nevertheless, this is the kind of public fiction. The democracies of the world are hanging together.
Public fiction. That the democracies of the world are hanging together. We're hanging pretty low these days, actually. We're swinging.
Against the autocracies of the world.
The autocracies? Is that autocracies run by orcs?
Fiction. The democracies of the world are hanging together against the autocracies of
the autocracies.
the world. Well,
yes, I'm going to put that in the Truth Social column.
Turns out that initially the expectation on the part of U.S. intelligence was that the Russians would overwhelm the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians would be reduced to fighting a kind of Afghan-style guerrilla war over the next, year or even decade, and the United States would be supporting this insurgency in various ways, large and small. But it turns out the Ukrainians are still in the fight, and as a result of being in the fight against obvious...
Again, I don't know who the fuck he's citing.
A more sizable opponent, the Ukrainians are demanding very aggressively. Zelensky almost every day is calling for escalations.
The nerve of this guy, right? I mean, granted, he's seeing his dead citizens every day, and he's hearing stories of children raped in front of their parents before they're slaughtered. But, I don't know why he's... Zelensky's got clearly anger issues.
He wants more drones. He wants more anti-tank weapons. He wants more anti-aircraft weapons.
This prick, right?
He wants more ammunition. And so here is Russia pummeling the Ukraine's industrial base pretty successfully, as it turns out.
Oh, you view it as a success. It's good. Have you thought about being on Jimmy Dore's show?
By the way, recently General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told Congress that the West has already delivered 60,000 anti-tank weapons, 25,000 anti-aircraft weapons to Kiev. And the Biden administration just recently approved a new $800 million package, helicopters, armed personnel carriers. And so the Ukrainians want more artillery, more coastal defense drones, other types of materiel.
Uh-huh.
Now, the interesting thing is that no one really planned for this. No one really expected...
Yeah, why didn't anybody plan for Russia to attack Ukraine sight unseen and commit all this horrible fuckery?
That the U.S. and the West would have to produce this kind of weaponry and deliver it at very, very short notice.
Yeah, gee, I can't imagine back to a time when We had to hurry up and go into Afghanistan all the fucking sudden, and then Iraq all of a sudden. And we managed to pull off, I guess, shock and awe in Iraq after Afghanistan, which we were equally unprepared for. Why didn't we prepare for these? All right.
They say that Kiev is blowing through, a week's worth of deliveries in like one day. And then they want
That's successful, huh?
more. So suddenly the Western countries are like, wait a minute, let's take a look at our own arsenal to see how much we've got to spare. Apparently Germany has decided, you know what, we're not giving Ukraine any more tanks. You know why? We need them. Then if we ever face a crisis, if somebody attacks the German border, we need German tanks. Canada says no more rocket launchers for Ukraine. Why? Because the Canadians need them. And so the United States...
That is true. Hockey has gone off the fucking cliff in Toronto these days, and like the fights that break out are on a sorry.
This has already given the Ukraine. I'm getting this now from a very interesting article in Bloomberg, an article written by a guy named Hal Brands.
Well, I got to look this up. Any guy named Hal has got to be okay in my book. Bloomberg, Hal Brands. Shit. Did Arsenal drug strategies work wonders in okay. This is hold on one second. This is the article that he's reading. Get out of here. Quit it. All right. Hold on. Just doing something real quick. Agree. All right. So, oh, fucking hell. All right. Well, there you go. 1 second. Okay. Jesus Christ. Now I gotta click on an email to subscribe on something. Hold on. So I can read this. Aggravating. Okay, thank you. Al, thank you for the diving to verify your email. There I did. I verified it. There you go. Oh, and then don't sorry. Okay, save, good, excellent. Okay, there we go. Now let's do this, and we'll reload, and then we're subscribed. Hey, look at that. All right, this is, no, go away. Hal Brands. There you go. The kind of brands you're looking for in this kind of world. Here we go. And let me do one thing real quick. Hold on, there's the thing. Hold on. Whoops. Got it. There we go. Close. There we go. All right. America's following an arsenal of democracy and has avoided direct intervention and strategy reminiscent of their support. We just started a Lend-lease program, by the way, which I doubt. I wonder if Dinesh is going to bring up. And then I got to move this out of the way so I can read. Boy. This could. Whoops. That could cause a fatal shortfall for Ukrainian forces conflicts, revealing American weaknesses could be laid bare in the next great power fight. Of all the support U.S. and its friends provide arms matter the most. Drones, we've put a bunch of stuff. And President Joe Biden never planned for a war like this. The assumption was that Russia would quickly conquer much of the country, so the U.S. would be supporting a simmering That's what he's reading. Pentagon officials say Kiev is blowing through a week's worth of deliveries in a day. Okay, so he's basically just narrating articles for us. There's a big industry for that on the interwebs as well. This is presenting Western countries a stark choice between pouring more supplies into Ukraine or husbanding finite capabilities they need for their own defense. Has declined to transfer tanks. Canada ran short on rocket launchers and equipment that they needed. I don't think they're saying they need them for themselves. Editorial. Canada runs out of arms for Ukraine. After running out of weapons to send Ukraine and underspending for its own plan to probably equip the Canadian military by $10 billion over the last 4 years, the Trudeau's government says now it's looking to increase military spending again. Or at least that's what Defense Minister Zeta says. Sending more would leave Canada's military under-equipped, so she will be talking to allies about other ways of securing additional military resources for Ukraine. She said she's proposing aggressive options to increase military spending by 1.39% of GDP, or above or equal to the NATO standard of 2%, as well as reconfiguring while keeping it under 2. The reality is Trudeau's government has already postponed $10 billion and then to properly equip the military. Blah, blah, blah. Strong, secure, engaged plan was to build his correct military strategy. The total additional cost of the program running by 2036-37 was estimated at $553 billion. They're just counting on us as a neighbor. Okay. U.S. provided 1/3 of its overall stockpile of Javelin anti-tank missiles. It cannot easily deliver more without leaving its own armories badly depleted, and may take months or years to significantly ramp up production. Before the U.S. entered World War II, and okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we dragged our feet on that. Kiev will require far more Western support to beat back Russian forces gathering in the east. Yeah, but we have different shit. It's not... All right, never mind. During World War I, 14th shell famine. Okay. This is always a problem with war. Again, we've already talked about the fact that Russia's basically fucked. They can't even access the technology to make more shit.
So the U.S. has provided 1/3 of its overall stockpile of Javelin anti-tank missiles.
Yes, they're stockpile, not the stuff that's active, not the stuff that's stored on ships and all that kind of stuff, and ready for use. It's 1/3 of the stockpile. If we end up with half the fucking stockpile, that's more than there are fucking Russian tanks.
And the U.S. is now saying, you know what, we can't really part with all that many more because we need to protect ourselves. We need to have enough to protect ourselves. Now, the point here is that the United States
what is the point?
Spends a lot of money in the military, so it may seem like we have
really
unlimited supply. But what most people realize is that our military has basically become a giant welfare program.
Oh, that's lovely. Our military has become... Well, then I don't know why Bernie Sanders is against it.
And what that means is that a large chunk of our military budget goes to things like healthcare. It goes, obviously, to all the idiotic woke training that the military is doing.
Yes, that's the cost of a single Javelin missile for any kind of anti-racism training. That's half a Javelin we've spent on that.
Only a fraction of military spending is on military equipment.
Technically, that's true if half of it... If you do realize that 15/16 is a fraction.
Military personnel direct efforts to create military readiness. And this is why we've got ships in mothballs. This is why we've got...
For the record, we have no ships in mothballs. It's a terrible way to store a ship. And by the way, there actually has only been one... There's only one reason why I think you might want to store a battleship in mothballs. And this is just, my guess, is in case you ever have to fight Mothra. Because then if the boat's coated in mothballs, it's a secret weapon. Send in the USS Cedarwood. All right, sorry.
Nuclear weapons that are now ancient. We don't even know if some of them will go off.
Fuck you. Some of them are ancient. Yes, the best one is the Tutankhamun missile. We don't even know if some of them will go off. Are you talking about your penis again, Dinesh?
The military is not exactly in good shape, and it's partly because of this kind of ideological infestation.
What the fuck are you talking about? You think 16 months of don't use the N-word on base has destroyed military readiness? Sir, this Javelin won't fire. Oh, that's because you haven't announced your white privilege to it. Fuck!
So all of this is a serious problem, and now actually we have to use our military, or at least use our military in delivering weapons to Ukraine.
Yes, use our military as the post office. Right.
And it turns out we don't exactly have a massive surplus. Another key point here is that
Yes, we've almost decimated the entire Russian tank fleet, and with a third of our stored javelins, much less all the switchblade drones and other shit that we're sending.
the United States in World War II, and even in the Korean War, had a massive manufacturing industrial base. We were essentially the manufacturing capital of the world.
Yeah, that's because everyone else's factories got blown to shit by the Russians or the Germans at one point.
So we could make stuff. We had the workforce to do.
Yes, we converted washing machine and car factories into military factories in World War II. We ain't at that point.
We had the resources to do it.
The USS Peppermint Oil. That's amazing. Wait, who said that? Randy the P. That was amazing. Send in the USS Peppermint Oil. Dear God, this giant moth is attacking us, sir. What do we do? Don't smack it. You'll get dust all over your shirt.
But now we don't. Now our economic leadership is not really based on manufacturing. And that's why we have shortages of machine tools, shortages of skilled labor, shortages of spare production capacity. And so we can't scale up so easily in the way that we used to. The U.S., the workforce that once did this for us, no longer exists.
We can't build anything anymore. Somebody get one of these Minecraft kids and start telling them to make a Minecraft tank.
So it turns out that the United States, although despite a lot of, propagandistic bluster, the Russians are going to face another Vietnam, the Russians are on the ropes. The truth of it is that Russia is willing to pay apparently a high price to create a kind of bear grasp on Ukraine.
A bear grasp. So fucking macho.
As for the United States, in a war in which our national interests are not clearly involved, this is
yeah, they are.
not in our backyard. In fact, it's in their backyard.
We don't have a backyard, fucko. This is the same argument people used to keep us out of World War II. I mean, there's not even that many Jews here.
In this war that is really a chosen conflict for us, it seems like we may be the ones to first run out of.
Yes, we made that choice a long time ago when we had a constitution and a Declaration of Independence and decided that democracy was the way. This is the way. I'm sorry. You're on the wrong side of the Mandalorian fight.
Weapons to spare.
Oh, God.